This series of videos introduces the 38 chapters of the Routledge Handbook of Environmental Movements. It's a project of the Social Change Lab, and we gratefully acknowledge the support of the Mary Lee bequest for the work of our team.
Hi, everyone. My name is Winifred Lewis. I'm a professor of social psychology at the University of Queensland.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Zhang. I'm a psychologist and a research assistant in University of Queensland.
Hi, I'm Montana, and I'm a psychology student at University of Queensland.
And what we're doing today is we're participating in this big project where we're making introductory videos for each of the chapters in the Routledge Handbook of Environmental Movements. And today we're specifically focusing in on chapter 25, which is political values and socialization in environmental movements. So there's an authorship team here, which is David Tyndall, Valerie Burseth, Madeleine Martel-Morin, and Eric Lachapelle. And so I'll just mention to you guys a little bit about their background. So Professor Tyndall is in sociology at the University of British Columbia, and Valerie Burseth is a PhD student there. And Associate Professor Lachapelle is based in political science at the University of Montreal. And Madeleine Martel-Morin is a PhD student there. So a big interdisciplinary team and a big, rich chapter. The focus is on how people's beliefs and values, norms, perceptions link together and connect with the environmental movement. And one of the points that they're making is that there's actually different ways, different approaches in sociology and political science to understand the diversity of beliefs that people have. And one of them is called the new social movement theory, isn't it, Andrea?
Yes. So the new social movement theory happens all around the second half of the 20th centuries, when there is a shift in Western countries' attitudes from the materialist to the post-materialist values. So what does this mean? So this actually means when this is a period of time then when the economic growth is rising, and also we reach the goal of reach a certain goal of social safety and material well-being. So leading people to really think about how to realize their non-material goals like self-expression and protection of the environment. And this is also related to attitudes toward the environmental movements, as there are heaps of research researching on people's attitudes towards this post-material values, and there is this attitude distinction, like there is a different value, there are different attitudes seen from the general public and the environmental group members. According to the research, about 46% of the general public rent the materialist values, such as maintaining a high rate of economic growth. And this goal is like more important than environmental protection or like the generation, like creating new ideas, compared to only 6% of the environmental movement group members, like they are like agreeing on these ideas, like they are more embracing the post-material values about creating a more society, and also that values new ideas more than money. And overall, like people who more embrace the post-material values are more environmentally friendly, and there are more possibility they are going to act in the environmental movements. So that also touch on the new ecological paradigm, isn't it, Winifred?
Yeah. And so the idea there is that along with these new post-materialist values, there's a sense of how humans relate to the environment. So the old paradigm of human exceptionalism is basically that, you know, humans are disconnected, and that we create our own future and conditions by our culture, and that we have the capacity to manage and create societies almost independent of any environment that we're in. Whereas the new ecological paradigm emphasizes that, on the contrary, we are part of nature and our societies are part of nature, that the natural environment constrains and limits the possibilities of our growth, and that we have the power to grow only when we are in harmony and in relationship with nature. So part of what the research in this field does is just take a series of beliefs, like humans are an interconnected, interdependent part of nature, and ask people, do you agree with these beliefs? And it's hard to imagine people disagreeing, but in fact they do. So there's other statements that are about how, you know, we can create security through our culture and so on. And so what we find in this line of work is that people who endorse higher new environmental paradigm beliefs tend to be those who are in the environmental movement. They identify with the movement, they take action, and they take environmentally friendly actions at the individual level as well, like recycling. And then there's, closely related to that, a body of work that looks at ideologies. And the ideologies that most people have focused on in this field are left and right, so political liberalism or conservatism. And here in Australia, we also have a polarization of environmental views. So the body of work in the US and in Australia often shows that people who are more conservative support environmental movements less. That's not the case around the world, but it is the case in some societies. But there's another way of approaching these kinds of beliefs and values, and that's with the values, beliefs, and norms framework. What's that about, Montana?
Yeah, so it's basically about how values flow onto perceptions of the environment and threats to the environment.
Yeah.
So it leads to the new ecological paradigm, which sort of helps create awareness of consequences, and therefore we can sort of see the responsibility that we have towards the environment. And from there, we like create personal norms, and this flows on to affect our behavior and the way we sort of choose to help and involve ourselves in these environmental movements.
That's right. And I guess some of the ways they study that are in these big surveys where people are asked about all of those things, you know, who's responsible, what's happening, what are your values? And then they're able to show this causal path flowing through what we call mediation analysis or structural equation modeling. But then they find as well that there's a direct association between values and behavior, which is a point that is interesting to stress, because one of the points that the authors come back to finishing the chapter is that this whole line of work has really not unpacked enough, they reckon, where all of these beliefs and values are coming from. So research on socialization has shown heaps of different sources are important. So for example, we can learn our values, and we do learn our values from our parents and from educational institutions and from the media and from social movements themselves. And we can learn them from interacting, or we can learn beliefs interacting with scientists and so on. So there are many different sources, and understanding the interconnections is one direction that the authors talk about at the end of the chapter when they're critically reflecting on research in political values and socialization. Another theme that they touch on is that for a lot of people, values and beliefs are kind of sufficient, but not enough. Sorry, they're necessary, but they're not sufficient. So what that means is that people may not take environmental action if they don't have environmental values, but you also need more. And so in particular, network research has shown that people need to have friends and family and be in social networks that invite them in, make them aware of a protest and invite them to come. And so that also is a direction of future research to consider how those networks form and change and spread values and beliefs. And I guess, have I missed the other points of critique at the end of the chapter? Conservative movements are understudied. That's one point. And also, people have criticized the whole idea of post-materialistic values. And do you want to say a little bit about that, Andrea? You're laughing.
Yeah, I was just like, Yeah, because people kind of brought up this post-material value theory, and then the author kind of also got a bit criticized on it and saying that's not enough for attitude change. As we can see, there is people have the awareness of something happened in the environment and we have to do something, but this doesn't necessarily related to like actually like activity supporting the environmental movement. So what actually generates this change is between this, there is a link of attitude change that make people really want to do something. And this is what the author kind of criticized, and the post-material value thing. This is about how social network ties plays a indirect effects on in this theory. And we can see there is the post-material value kind of distinguish the general public and the group members of environmental groups. And you can see there's a large different values between this group. But I think what is encouraging is also that what if we don't see these people as two distinct group and we can also invite them we don't treat them as outgroup members. Inside, we kind of include them and maybe invite them into our groups. So you can see that will be a great attitude shifting from this is not about me, I know this, but I don't care much, into this is really something there is something I can do and I'm responsible for it.
Yeah, I certainly had the same reaction as the social psychologist, that there would be more conversations about identities in groups that would be fruitful, looking especially at how these attitudes form and change. And some of our theories really overlap with this content and our research. So yeah, I look forward to further dialogue there. One of the points I wanted to make about post-materialism that the authors comment on is that even though there's this kind of narrative or theory that once you've satisfied your economic minimum conditions of safety and wealth, that's when you develop a care for the environment. Actually, there's not as much evidence of that as people originally maybe thought, and many wealthy societies are behaving in very destructive ways. Wealthier people are behaving in more destructive ways, even though they may have concern for the environment. Their carbon footprints are often much, much larger. And there's very limited evidence that poor people don't care about the environment, particularly when we look around the world. That does not seem to hold true. So those are some interesting points. What did you take as your sort of key lessons from the chapter, Montana?
I had no idea about the abundance of research that there is on this topic. As I said last time I was recording, I'm still learning a lot about this. But it's exciting to know how people do care about this. They're doing a lot of research. And I'm also interested to see in the future how our values and beliefs change as the situation changes with us. So
yeah, let's unpack that just one more sentence, because I just think you made such an important point earlier. Like, the reality is the climate is deteriorating. What Montana's saying, and what we can all agree, is that as we watch the earth kind of fall apart, our values and beliefs will change, which as psychologists is extremely interesting. As activists, it's desperately needed. So we're looking forward to that, and the sort of synergy of scientists and the public to make that change happen as quickly and smoothly as possible. Well, I'll thank you, Montana and Andrea, for being present today and helping with the recording. It's a very challenging process, and I think we're all enjoying it and feeling pushed to grow intellectually. And I'll thank you to the readers as well, viewers, I should say, for being present with us today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
For those of you watching, be sure to subscribe and follow us at Social Change UQ, and check out our website for more videos.